So chapter 21, managing and leading during organization change. Before I get started on reviewing this PowerPoint, I do want to make you aware that there are a lot of theories and concepts that will be introduced within this chapter, within this PowerPoint, that really doesn't do it justice within the PowerPoint itself. So I encourage you strongly to make sure that after we provide you this, this great overview of this chapter, that you go within the book itself to learn more about the theories and concepts that we're going to talk about today. There are going to be lots of graphs to kind of make it, I guess, to draw those inferences on your own so you can kind of see how things come together. But again, it'll do you more justice if you go into the book to read more about the concepts, and then you'll be able to make sense of things. Hopefully you've had a chance to review the chapter before you've looked at this PowerPoint review. If not, again, this is going to be an overview of it, and make sure that you go back into the chapter to make things make a little bit more sense. So let's go ahead and get started. So the late 19th and early 20th centuries marked the emergence of scientific management concepts. Scientific management was an early effort to apply scientific principles and practices to business processes. The concepts of bureaucracy, efficiency, and project management were developed during this period and are still relevant today. Attempting to compensate for the theory of scientific management's exclusion of senior management, the administrative management theory proposed a rational approach to designing organizations with formal structure, clear division of labor, and use of delegation. It argued that management was a profession and could be learned. This theory gave rise to identifying the key functions of management, clarification of the executive role, and employee empowerment. Although the U.S. has always touted itself as the home of democracy, the equity of power in the workplace has not always existed between workers and management. By the early 1900s, there were growing social pressures to treat workers in a more enlightened and respectful manner. Building on Bernard's and Follett's ideas that people should be treated fairly and that effective controls come from individual workers, the stage was set for a shift in management thought. Operations management developed after World War II as an application of emerging statistical, mathematical, and quantitative methods to decision-making in the business setting in order to better understand how products and services could be manufactured and delivered. Techniques such as forecasting, linear programming, break-even analysis, queuing theory, logistics, and more recently, data mining emerged from this emphasis on statistical control, especially with the growing capacity of computers. Although many aspects of older theories of management are still widely practiced in most organizations, research and practical experience have led to many refinements and new developments in the field. More contemporary approaches to management include management by objectives or MBO, total quality management, TQM, which I'm sure you'll hear a lot about, and an emphasis on excellence in quality and performance. Each of these has made a contribution to better understanding how effective management works, but none of them alone has yet succeeded in producing a comprehensive solution for managing organizations. Here's an example of the foundations of management timeline from the 1920s to the present. I encourage you to pause at this moment to kind of review each of those. And again, go through your chapter in the book to learn more about them in depth. Management functions. So plans are usually organized hierarchically into planning levels, with the mission statement driving the enterprise by defining exactly the purpose of existence for the organization. That is, what business it's in. The mission statement is a written statement that sets forth the core purpose and philosophies of an organization or group. A vision statement describes the ideal and desired future state toward which an organization is directed. In contrast to the mission statement, which is current and realistic, the strategic plan follows from the mission. It's formulated by top management. It sets the priorities and positioning of the organization for a time period, and is based on the internal strengths and weaknesses and external external opportunities and threats. These are translated through the lower levels of the organization by middle management in formulating tactical plans, which are strategic plans for the organization's major divisions. At the lower departmental levels, these finally become operational plans that are implemented as daily activities. Organizing is the way in which the organization is designed and operated to attain the desired goals. It involves the way that tasks are grouped into departments and resources are distributed to them. The organizational chart graphically represents the formal structure of an organization. It often includes departmental subdivisions and follows the scalar principle and unity of command discussed earlier. The vertical structure of the organization refers to the formal design of positions within departments and divisions, the lines of authority and responsibility, and the allocation of resources to them. Two kinds of authority are found in organizations. Line authority is the right of managers to direct the activities of subordinates under their immediate control. Staff authority is related to the expert knowledge of specialists in the organization and involves their ability or right to advise and recommend courses of action. And each supervisor has a certain number of people who report to that supervisor, which is referred to as the span of management or the span of control. Related to span is delegation, in which managers transfer authority to subordinates to carry out a responsibility. And here's an example of a hospital organizational chart. I'm sure many of you have seen this before. So leading is most often accomplished by communicating, directing, and motivating, all intended to influence behavior to perform well. Power, or the ability to influence, is central to leadership and derives from several sources, including the following. Authority, or legitimate power, comes from the right of the position in the organization to direct the activities of subordinates. Reward power is based on the leader's ability to withhold or provide rewards for performance. Coercive power maintains control over punishment. Referent power exists when the leader possesses personal characteristics that are appealing to the constituency, and the constituency follows out of admiration, charismatic impact, or the desire to be like the leader. Expert power occurs when the leader has knowledge or expertise that is of value, and information power is based on being able to provide information to decision makers. The final managerial function of controlling refers to the monitoring of performance and the use of feedback to ensure that efforts toward achieving the prescribed goals are on target and making course corrections as needed. It's sometimes referred to as evaluating. Managers are obligated to ensure that progress is made toward achieving goals, and while some organizations allow experienced and responsible employees to self-monitor, technology has enabled remote monitoring of performance. The executive dashboard is often characterized as a manager's version of a pilot's cockpit dashboard, and it contains all the critical information for leading the organization. The balanced scorecard, or BSC, is an extension of strategic planning in which KPIs, or key performance indicators, are measured at all levels of the organization. So here is a nice graph that explains the management functions by organization levels. Again, the management functions are planning, organizing, leading, and controlling. In planning, the level of involvement is low for frontline management, moderate for middle management, and high for top management. In organizing, the level of involvement is low for frontline management, moderate for middle management, and high for top management. In leading, the level of involvement is high for frontline management, moderate for middle management, and low for top management. In controlling, the level of involvement is low for frontline management, moderate for middle management, and high for top management. So the levels of management and skills. So superior management for frontline management, there's going to be a significant use of technical skills. For middle management, there's going to be a significant use of interpersonal skills, including emotional intelligence. And for top management, there's going to be a significant use of conceptual skills. These include executive management positions or governing boards. So this is really great information for you if you are looking to move into management eventually. If you're not already there, but these are the different levels of management, and it's something that you should be aware of as you traverse your career. Here's another graph of the functional skills by level in the organizations. Again, the functional skills are technical skills, interpersonal skills, and conceptual skills. Frontline management uses technical skills more than middle management and top management. Middle management uses interpersonal skills more than frontline management and top management. And top management uses conceptual skills more than frontline management and middle management. Attributes of emotional intelligence include self-awareness or the ability to monitor, notice, and label one's feelings as they occur. Self-regulation is the ability to manage one's emotions and impulses. A person with this skill is often viewed as being reflective, comfortable with change and ambiguity, and able to control impulsiveness. Motivation, being highly motivated is essential for focusing attention, mastering situations, showing creativity, and being productive and successful. Empathy, the ability to recognize emotions in others. This is important for teamwork as well as for helping adjust one's behavior to the emerging reactions of others. And social skills, which is the ability to handle relationships with others. This is central to being perceived as popular, effective with others, and having the qualities of a leader. Interpersonal activity arises from the manager's formal authority in the organization and is supportive of the informational and decisional activities. It includes the roles of figurehead for ceremonial and formal occasions, of leader for motivating and using power, and of liaison to link and network for information and support. Informational activities includes the role of monitor of performance information, disseminator of values and information, and spokesperson for the organization with outside groups. Decisional activity includes the roles of entrepreneur to promote improvement and change, disturbance handler to deal with disruptions, resource allocator for overseeing resources and setting priorities, and negotiator for making arrangements with other organizations. Here is a great chart of the different managerial activities and some of the roles. Again, I do encourage you to pause this to review this information. It is great. Here is another graph. It talks about the paradigm shift in management from the traditional management paradigms to the new management paradigm that most organizations are heading towards. So that's another interesting graph that you might want to learn more about. So trends in leadership theory. Classical leadership theories tended to focus on the principle and effective use of authority, and this emphasis began to change with the many social changes emerging in the early to mid 1900s. Inventions and innovations in manufacturing and technology increased competition, which made managers more open to new ideas, and workers became increasingly better educated and skilled, thereby requiring managers with authoritative styles to adopt more democratic approaches. The workforce also became increasingly diverse, much like today, and this required a broader understanding of different cultures and motivational approaches. The classical models evolved from great person theory to trait theory to the autocratic democratic continuum. While most earlier theories focused on what leaders should do and what was expected of them, emerging behavioral theories describe what managers actually do. The emerging theories clearly emphasize a leader's orientation toward both task and people and enable leaders to describe a variety of styles rather than just the one right style. Most of these early theories of leadership have emphasized identifying a cluster of traits or a single style orientation for leadership. As research in leadership has continued, it has become apparent that successful leadership does not depend on style or skills alone, but rather on matching a leader's style with the changing demands or contingencies of a specific situation. Here are some other theories that you should know about. Didactic, dyadic relationship theory, the values-based leadership theory, which is a servant leadership model. And here's a Tannenbaum and Schmidt's leadership continuum. Based on autocratic democratic dimension, they designed a continuum that describes 7 degrees of leader involvement in decision making. At one end of the continuum, which is the autocratic side, the leader makes the decision alone and then announces it. At the other end, which is democratic, the leader encourages his or her employees to make their own decisions within prescribed limits. This model was new in that it reflected a shift from looking at the leader in isolation or in terms of a rigid or permanent style, and suggested that a person had available a range of behaviors depending on the situation. Here's a leadership matrix model. And the matrix is based on 2 behavioral dimensions: concern for production, which included task orientation and initiating structure, and concern for people, which included social orientation and consideration. The 4 leadership styles are as follows: team management style, where concern for production and concern for people are high; authority compliance management style, where concern for production is high and concern for people is low; country club management, where concern for production is low and concern for people is high; and the impoverished management, where concern for production and concern for people are low. The worker immaturity, maturity continuum. This is a concept that suggests that job maturity and psychological maturity of subordinates also influence the selection and effectiveness of the leadership style. Job maturity refers to how much work-related ability, knowledge, experience, and skill a person has, and psychological maturity refers to willingness, confidence, commitment, and motivation related to work. Behaviors associated with maturity include initiative, dependability, perseverance, receptiveness to feedback, goal orientation, and minimal need for supervision. The path goal theory states that a person's ability to perform certain tasks is related to the direction and clarity available that lead to organizational goals. For example, if a worker is unclear about what a task involves and what should be done, performance will be improved when clear instructions are given. The role of leaders then is to facilitate progress on the path towards the goal by removing barriers to performance. And this diagram, which is a systems view of overtime effects, depicts the interrelationship between various variables. Healthcare pressures affect the organizational structure, culture, and multiple projects and project size. Increased projects and project size result in increased schedule pressure. When schedule pressure increases, scope creep, impact on external stakeholders, and multitasking increases. When multitasking increases, team size and skills and work efficiency decrease. Decreased work efficiency results in project delays. Project delays, team size and skills, and team cohesion reiterate Brooks' law. And increased project delays result in increased fatigue. When fatigue increases, errors and defects increase and team relations decrease. Errors and defects affect morale, that in turn affects team relations and job satisfaction. And job satisfaction is affected by family impact. Decreased job satisfaction results in increased turnover, and increased turnover results in decreased team size and skills. So diffusion of innovations. So you have the categories of adopter groups, which includes innovators. This venturesome group comprises about 2.5% of the organization and are individuals who are eager to try new ideas. And these individuals tend to be worldlier and more sophisticated, seek out new information in broad networks, and are more willing to take risk. You have the early adopters. This respectable group accounts for about 13.5% of the organization. The individuals in this group have a high degree of opinion leadership. They're more localized than worldly and often look to the innovators for advice and information. These are the leaders and respected role models in the organization, and their adoption of an idea or practice does much to initiate change. You have the early majority. This group comprises about 34% of the organization. Although usually not leaders, the individuals in this group represent the backbone of the organization. They're deliberate in thinking about and accepting an idea and serve as a natural bridge between early and late adopters. You have the late majority. This skeptical group comprises about 34% of the organization. The individuals in this group usually adopt innovations only after social or financial pressure to do so. And of course, you have the laggards. The traditional members of this group are usually the last ones to respond to innovation and make up as much as 16% of the organization. The laggards are often characterized as isolated, uninformed, and mistrustful of change and promoters of change, but they may serve a function by keeping the organization from changing too quickly. The diffusion curve examines how quickly an innovation is accepted and are relatively consistent. A great example would include patient acceptance of consumer e-health innovation, adoption of the EHR by the physician, and consumer adoption of web-based health information portals. So here's characteristics of innovation stakeholders. The data from the figure are as follows. Innovators are cosmopolitan, have networks, and are risk-taking. They are 2.5% of a group. Early adopters are local opinion leaders and respected role models. They are 13.5% of a group. Early majority shows high interaction, are non-leader linkers, and are deliberate. They are 34% of the group. Another 34% of the group includes the late majority, which takes economic necessity and social pressure into consideration. The laggards are past oriented, isolated, and suspicious of change, and they comprise 16% of a group. And innovators and early adopters are high innovation adopters. Early majority and late majority are moderate innovation adopters, and laggards are low innovation adopters. Innovation diffusion S-curve. So here the horizontal axis represents time. The vertical axis represents the level of adoption. Innovators and early adopters are aware of innovation first. Early majority and late majority follow. Laggards are aware at the end. The initial awareness of innovation of the same group forms an S-shaped curve. Innovators and early adopters adopt the innovation first. Early majority and late majority follow. Laggards adopt the innovation at the end. The time taken by the groups to adopt the innovation forms an S-shaped curve. Change management. So the role of a change agent is to facilitate the change process by utilizing reflective learning, including drawing attention to important processes, helping people understand what the processes mean, and considering and implementing plans of action. Internal change agents are familiar with their environment, whereas external change agents bring on a fresh or different perspective. Regarding the stages of change, Kurt Lewin in the 1940s described how it was important for organizations to unfreeze or disrupt the status quo to prepare for change. The second stage involved putting a deliberate plan into practice by which new behaviors become normalized or refrozen due to refreezing. So here's a great slide again about the differences between managers and leaders. I'm sure that some of us can really relate with our experiences, but it's great information to know. Managers administer, whereas leaders innovate, and so on and so forth. So here is a chart of the advantages of internal and external change agents. Make sure that you are aware of this. This is just great information to know. Now, the force field analysis of forces for the balanced scorecard. So the forces for the implementation of the balanced scorecard are as followed. You have a strong administrative support, available incentives, vendor assistance, consumer demands, legislative requirements. The forces against the implementation of the balanced scorecard are as follows. Mistrust among staff and administration, fatigue from ongoing changes, unwilling to learn new technology, union resistance, and miscommunication. Oh, let me go back. So dealing with Cotter's phases of change. So the steps are as follows. Create a sense of urgency. That's step one. Step two is establish the guiding coalition. Step three will be to create a compelling vision. Step four is communicate the vision. Step 5 is to empower action. Step 6 is create short-term wins. Step 7 is to build on the change. And step 8 is to make it stick. So these steps are categorized under the 3 phases. Steps 1, 2, and 3 are part of the phase of creating a climate change. Steps 4, 5, and 6 are part of the phase of engaging and enabling the whole organization. And steps 7 and 8 are part of the phase of implementing and sustaining change. So here is a graph of the variable impact of change on different stakeholders. So here the x-axis represents time, the y-axis represents reaction to change, and it ranges from low to high. The graph consists of consequences of change, which are categorized into 3 regions. Region 1 is characterized by current status quo and climate. Region 2 is characterized by productivity decline, complaining, low morale, and passive noncompliance. And Region 3 is characterized by employee turnover, knowledge loss, patient impact, and active defiance. Now, once there is an announcement of change and rumors, the curve representing Department A reaches Region 2 quickly and falls back to Region 1. The curve representing Department B reaches Region 2 slowly and falls back to Region 1. The curve representing Department C reaches Region 3 quickly and falls back to Region 2. And the curve representing Department D reaches Region 3 quickly and stays there. Departments C and D have a greater level of resistance to change and impact of change than Departments A and B. And that's it.